Folks, here I am again. Welcome back. It's Evinrude Goes Tits Up, Part 3. We get into dealing with the actual customer service people, the people that are supposed to be in charge of administering the 10-year warranty that you all think you have. By now, if you've watched Parts 1 and 2 presentation, it's becoming painfully obvious that all is not well in the Evinrude world. In this next segment, we'll examine the people behind the warranty claim just long enough to find out where all the confusion starts. The shop in Nassau understood that I owned the motors. I have the case number to prove that the boat was there, not just once, but twice. What happens next in our story is truly understandable only after one comprehends really the culture of deception and deceit that is the Evinrude Motor Company. It's hard to say it, it's hard to believe it, but I can't come up with more accurate words, and the following will illustrate why. I'm not talking about the dealers. The dealers are really down-to-earth people trying to make it work. I feel like their hands are literally tied behind their back in most cases, or worse, and so it's not about the dealer. It's about the company behind them. The following illustrations prove my point beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's sad, but it's true. As it was turning out, a recurring theme was certainly beginning to form around the Evinrude name. Very clearly, the dealers were doing everything in their power to help, while the factory was doing everything it could to keep from recalling these motors. And addressing several problems which I can now easily identify and will as we move along in our series. I think in the end it all comes down to the fact that they are trying to obfuscate and they are trying to keep it a secret, but believe me, it's not a secret. My interactions with the quote team lead of customer service escalation team, I laughed for 5 minutes when she gave me her title, escalation team. That was certainly a very descriptive term, and it perfectly illustrated the company attitude in regards to standing behind their product. Woman's name is Ann Sexton, and with regards to leading anything, I doubt she could lead a group of 2 from her cubicle to the restroom down the hall. First of all, I would have never gotten her phone number without the help of the shop where the motor currently is. There was no way to get to the team leader. So I got to her, and upon my contacting her, she spent the next 2.5 weeks trying to tell me that I didn't own the motors and that she was not able to give me a case number for a warranty because her system, the Evinrude system, didn't show me as the current owner of the motors. Mind you, this is after the motors had been in an Evinrude shop in Nassau with a case number for over 6 months. Okay, the problem? Simply that the Evinrude system is segmented in such a way, again, that one shop can't see what the other one has done to a motor. Thus, poor Ann, the team leader, had no idea what she was talking about. I got rid of her pretty quickly. It was a waste of time. It was really sad. The solution? Here we go again. Back to the dealer. Not even the dealer that had the motor. This is what's so unbelievable about this. I didn't even go to the dealer that had the motor. I called one of the dealers I'd been talking to in Florida that had given me a lot of information, and he was the customer service. And I'm gonna give you his name because the guy's a rock star, and he came right out and said, "This woman's lying to you, Frank." I said, "Okay, works for me." And he said, "I can solve this in 5 minutes." And I said, "I'm gonna be pissed if you can." And he said, "Watch." And he said, "Give me this information." I said, "Well, that's the information I gave her." And he said, "That's all I need. I need your address and the seller's address. Give me the seller's phone number. I'll call and verify it, and we're done." And so that's what happened. The solution took less than 5 minutes. Mr. Christopher Emmel, great guy, funny guy, manager, customer service manager, did in 5 minutes what Ms. Sexton couldn't do in 20 days, namely verify that I own the motors. Impressive, isn't it? That's your team leader in charge of your warranty. Yeah, okay. I supplied him with the exact same information I gave to her weeks earlier. So the difference? He's dealing with the public face to face. He has to perform. He's part of the dealer. She works for Evinrude, hiding in a cubicle in Wisconsin, not accountable to anybody. Her job is to get rid of you. I've told my son several times that if BRP truly understood what Evinrude was doing to their name, they'd close the company this month. They can't know this. There's just no way. I bought the motors with the risk that BRP, not Evinrude, would stand behind them. We, as a side note, we actually put our lives at risk usually twice a year. We ride about 85 miles out of the wilderness up in Yellowstone Park, riding the best ATVs money can buy, Can-Ams. Who makes Can-Ams? BRP makes Can-Ams. Bulletproof machine, absolutely the best. We've done it for 5 years. There isn't a better machine out there. Again, it's BRP. They make $35 million custom jets. I'd love to have one, right? I would trust them enough to buy one. This is Evinrude. It's something different. Can-Am is as solid as a rock. Evinrude is an abortion. It's hard to understand that I just don't believe that a company like BRP knows anything about what Evinrude is up to, or they would stop it. So let's move on. Ann Sexton, this team leader of customer service escalation, was a repeat of my experience in Nassau. Why? The dealer was as helpful as his knowledge and expertise allowed. Let's look closer at this relationship. The dealer in Nassau knew of the problems with the mufflers, the recalls. He knew about the problems with the reed valves, which I consider deadly. If a motor ingests a reed valve 150 miles out, you don't have a motor. You better have a satellite phone and hope somebody's within range. So the dealer knew of these things, water cooling issues, software updates, essentially everything that the Florida shop has to do now, this last week. They knew about it over there in Nassau. Evinrude wouldn't let Nassau replace these items. They sent the boat away with a spark plug. Now, I would normally never get this information. Of course I wouldn't. As a customer, I got it from a guy that works there, very high up in the company in Nassau, a guy I respect immensely. He did the best job he could. And of course, now here he was telling me all the truth about this. And so go back to Ann Sexton. Ann Sexton was simply manifesting the company policy, which is, if you're Evinrude, the company, just get rid of them any way you can, because we don't want to recall these motors, A, and B, we sure as hell don't want to have to take one in and go down the list, fix all this stuff, and then the guy goes on YouTube, creates a video, then we got all these motors coming back. So you got the dealers on one hand, you got Evinrude on the other. The dealers are caught between the proverbial rock and a hard spot, doing whatever the factory, allows them to do. That same term will come out again in the next episode as the next customer service manager that works on the motor. Young kid's a rock star in my mind. Really got a can-do attitude, but right off the bat, the factory says, nope, we're not doing that. We got to go X, Y, Z. Okay, great. For the second time, I learned dealer good, Evinrude bad. Mr. Emmel had no interest in the motor. He knew he wasn't going to work on it. He was just proving that the team leader was prevaricating. For you fishermen out there, that means lying. He was showing that she was lying, and in 5 minutes he made his point, because he called me back and said, done. And I said, seriously? And he said, yes, sir. And I said, thank you so much. I'll get back to you. And so instantly I called the shop that had the motor, and they said, yep, you got it, Frank, you're in the system. Warranty happened. How'd you do that so fast? And I said, well, I can't tell you who I called because they're a competitor, but it sure as hell was not Ann Sexton, whom we have been communicating with for over 2.5 weeks. He laughed and said, she had nothing to do with this. And I said, nothing to do with it? Hell, she was stopping it. Anyway, that got behind us. And so, again, the entire story is a textbook case, in my mind, about poor upper management of a failing company. There's decisions here, rather than proactively recalling these motors and addressing the numerous issues, they're waiting for things that they know will fail to simply happen. It's referred to as prior knowledge, and when somebody loses their life, this YouTube video ends up in a courtroom. Prior knowledge. That ends part 3. More to come. It's not over yet. We haven't even touched the technical issues. We're getting there. Like I said, 7 months. There's a lot to it. This next one will solve several problems for some of you guys that have heating issues. I know the real hooker up in North Carolina, he and I have spoke. He explained to me that, yeah, he got a new motor, but it has heating issues, and I know where it's happening at what RPMs. I know what's the motor's not doing inside. I know what's causing it, and I actually am going to help him with his motor, and so we'll look forward to that in part 4. Everybody have a great day, and see you shortly.